Four-star quarterback Derek Zammit is coming to Washington.
You are Locked On Huskies, your daily podcast on the Washington Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into a special bonus edition of the Locked On Huskies podcast. I'm Tomashoff. That's Lars Hanson. He's site editor with Athlon Sports' Inside the Huskies. I'm the site editor with Huskies Wire, coming at you on this Saturday morning. Thank you for making this your first watch or first listen of the day. Lars, again, we're coming on at the Everydayers on a special Saturday morning show here because four-star quarterback Derek Zammit has committed to Washington, and this is a really nice win for this coaching staff.
It really is. And again, it's one of those things where it wasn't a name that we had necessarily been talking about as much, almost like kind of like waiting in the wings. And again, it goes back to that. Nobody was in the way that Jake Browning, where it's like, okay, Jake's the good quarterback, but like, Brett's like the guy. Look how that turned out. I think this is kind of going to be the same way where it's the better fit. And you touched on this on the last show that we talked about, and where it's kind of almost like Dash Brearley, but even just maybe you could arguably say a little bit better. And that's no slight to Dash, because again, we think highly of Dash as well. Exactly, but you look at Zammit and just the profile fits everything. Being from New Jersey, I think is what intrigues me the most about him, because high in terms of quality of football he's gone against, very good. So I'm not worried about that, but I'm curious, like, does that mean UW can help expand the footprint and maybe bring some other East Coast guys in, which maybe we'll hint on in the third segment or second, kind of just talk about him as we get going, because really it's a great get in terms of an on-field product, but I'm more curious, like, what is the ripple effect going to be of it?
So that is a really important part of this. Let's start with the on-field product first, where when you talk about it, it's one thing that I've been really impressed with him is when you go and you watch his sophomore film compared to his junior film, the numbers are there and it shows, hey, this is a guy who's super coachable and willing to just do whatever it takes to find new ways to be developed. Where if you go and you look at the numbers from his sophomore year to his junior year, his completion percentage improves by almost 10 points. He was at 58.8% as a sophomore, and then 67.9 as a junior. And I think about, just what this means for Jedd Fisch's offense. We saw what Damon Williams was able to do in his two starts last season. We saw what Noah Fafita, Jaden DeLora did for him in his time in Arizona, and I'm excluding Will Rogers from this because of the, we're talking about those smaller mobile quarterbacks who are able to get outside the pocket, make throws on the run, and make plays with their legs as well as their arm. And that's something that Derek does really, really well. And it's why he's such a great fit for this offense, where you look at the arm talent, you look at the mobility and everything he brings to the table just as an athlete, and you say, okay, yeah, it's all there. And then it's something where, if he fits really well in Jedd Fisch's system and he's willing to take the high percentage throw instead of trying to force the ball down the field. I'm not necessarily saying one is better than the other, but I'm saying that one fits way better in what Jedd wants to do. And that's something that we've seen throughout his tenure as a head coach, not just at Washington, but at Arizona as well, is that's what he looks for. Is he looks for somebody who, for sure, has all the physical abilities in the world, but also somebody who's going to fit his system really well. And when you talk about Derek, coming on really late, and then, you and I talked about it, both off air and on air, where when he dropped his top four, it was, Washington's still involved here. This is really interesting. And then, obviously steam picks up and things go the way that they do. It's just, I think it's more of a testament to not only Derek's skill set, but just a testament to how important fitting in Jedd's scheme is for him.
In a way, like the only word, like I agree with everything you said. Just the one word that I would add that was missing is the vision. Like the vision of this get, where as you were saying all that, it made me think like Jedd's. When I remember one of his first press conferences was like, what's the most important thing a quarterback can do for you? It's like be high completion percentage. Just get the ball out, make the right read, make the right throw. And I'm wondering, what is it about that mobile dual, not true dual threat, like a guy who's going to take 10, 12 designed runs, but a guy who can, move out of the pocket, be agile, which is everything Damon, Dash, and Tristan seemingly show to be. Obviously, Damon a little bit higher class, let's just be real about that. But with all that being said, you look at it and think, what is it about the dual threat ability? I'm just going to say that allows it to work in Jedd's offense. Like, I would almost want to pick Jedd because, like, in a way, like, you're taking one or the other with the quarterbacks that we've been talking about, and taking Zammit. Clearly, like, the staff is enamored with him, and that's like, you know what, cool, you're our guy. Even though it's all the way out in New Jersey, you're our guy. What is it about like that dual threat nature? Because clearly, the other person, you're taking up the more polished passer, let's just say, like not, and I don't mean that as a slight to Derek, but just kind of the more prototypical, bigger, that sort of guy. That's what intrigues me about it, because I trust Jedd's vision is what I'm saying here, because like you see this, you're willing to go all the way up to New Jersey to get him. There's clearly a vision for it, and we've seen it pay off with DeMond already.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we're going to have more on Derek right after the break, because we've got a message from our friends over at Amazon Fire TV. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports, College Football 25, to Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, you can also watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes for your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney, Max, and so much more. And for me personally, I can't wait to take my Fire TV Stick with me on the road when I got to go, cover some games this fall. Got to make sure I can still drop into Verdansk no matter where I am around the country. That's going to be an absolute blast. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. So Lars, the more I watch Derek, the more it's, we just talked about it. There's so many things about this take that make sense, because we're going to talk a little bit more about Brady Smigiel later on and where things might sit there. But I look at this and I say, you watch the film, you understand just kind of what this guy does just not only in his offense, what he looks like in Jedd's offense when you talk about the vision, and you say, okay, I like that. I think that all makes sense. And he's somebody who ran for over 500 yards and 4 touchdowns as a junior, where Brady was at the 300 level, and he was certainly doing a whole lot to improve his mobility and improve himself as a runner. So I'm not trying to slide him in any way, but it's one of those things where I think you and I underestimated this, where, when we first saw Derek put Washington in his top 4, there's another thing I want to get to on that as well. But when we looked at that, we just kind of underestimated, saying, oh yeah, this is a guy who really does fit the system well. But, this staff just seems absolutely enamored with Brady, which still could absolutely be the case. But this is one of those things where Derek's ready to commit. He wants to commit to you. He fits your system really well. There is absolutely no reason you should turn that down.
It's interesting how you and I are so alike, but also just slightly different. Where like I was the first thing when I saw that the top 4 post, I was like, the first thing, I truly mean this, because I think I was driving in my car when I saw it. I don't remember where I was. I'm pretty sure it was in my car, because I remember looking down, and just the first thought that came to my head was, what's Jedd's angle? Kind of the same thing with the vision, because on the field, it makes sense. Like perfect. In terms of, if I didn't know where Derek was from, and let's say he's from California, let's say he's from, modern day or Arizona or even Texas, no matter where he's from, the profile and everything checks out. Worth also noting, Will Rogers did have a completion percentage of 70% by the end of his Washington tenure. So even then, that's actually better than what Jayden Delora had in 22, slightly less than Noah's 24. I'm just saying, or 72 and 23. I just say, let's say Jedd can make everything work. So I think that's what kind of leading into my point of like, all right, Jedd, what's the vision here? You're going to your home state, you're going East Coast, you're going all the way out there. I'm just curious, like, and obviously worth noting for the fans, for anybody curious, obviously most of the everyday else I think know this, but Jedd can't talk about him in any capacity until he signs. So we couldn't ask him like, hey, Jedd, like, why'd you get that kid from New Jersey? The only thing, the closest we could get would be to like, hey, you have clearly offered some kids in the state of New Jersey, because he's able to retweet them. And so he can acknowledge, like, hey, like, yes, our recruiting footprint has expanded. That's about the furthest he can say. But I'm just like, that's just what makes it so curious. And hopefully we'll get to talk with Derek at some point. Obviously, I would assume this is an open invite. Derek could be welcome on the show at any point. Because that's what intrigues me about it, because everything on the football side checks the boxes.
No, absolutely. Sorry, that was one thing that I wanted to get to, was the expansion of the footprint and going into Jedd's home state. It's something where, on our respective websites, we've certainly mentioned when, Derek got offered. And then when he was in the top 4, it was, hey, this is somebody from Jedd Fisch's home state. When he got the crystal balls, we said on this show the other day, it seems like he went out to meet with him when he was doing his Good Morning Football interview in New York. And it's one of those things where he talked about it on Good Morning Football of, I'm out here because I want Washington to be a national brand. I want Washington, in the Big Ten. to be able to go coast to coast. And I feel like that's just a comfortable starting point for him, which is fair because not only is there really good talent in the state of New Jersey for football, but it's just also somewhere where, yeah, I'm really comfortable recruiting this area. I can show these kids like, hey, I'm from around here and I was able to go make it as a, coach in the NFL and a head coach in college football. Why don't, you trust me? On top of that, we talked about the top 4. Alabama was also in that top 4. And you go and you read some of the articles on some of the Alabama sites about Derek, some of the things that, it sounded like that coaching staff just seemed to feel about him. We know that coaching staff very well. And you made this point the other day, not only is it really, really good at identifying quarterback talent, but being able to say that you won out over Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb, Courtney Morgan, and this Alabama just brand and appeal for a quarterback is a really solid win. So that's something that I'm sure played into this as well. But Lars, we got to start to wrap up here. But after we answer the question, what might be next down the pipeline? Right after a message from our good friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. And just a heads up, with the NBA playoffs on deck right here, I'm going with the Celtics again to go back-to-back and defend that title. Would love to see them. I got them playing Oklahoma City in the NBA Finals, so whole lot to watch out for over there, and don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com to claim your $250 in bonus bets today. So, Lars, official visits start next Friday. There's a really nice crop of guys coming in. Cody Green was on campus on Friday, according to On3's Chad Simmons. And I look at just everything that Washington has. This kind of feels like the one to get the ball rolling, because this staff struggled to find a quarterback for a while. They struck out on, guys left and right. And now you find the quarterback, and, he might not have the same relationship that, say, Brady Smigiel does with Landen Miree. But I look at what this staff has already set up in terms of official visits, some other guys that seem to be showing interest, and I say it seems like things are moving in the right direction, and this could be the one that really gets that ball rolling.
Well, see, what makes it interesting is all those New Jersey offers now become even more intriguing. Like,
Sure.
when you're talking about receivers, do you add another receiver from one of those guys? When you're even kind of just those East Coast guys, because I'm glad you mentioned Landen Miree, because that was one of those guys who told me, like, hey, I wanted to push back that visit to the last, official visit weekend in June. Yeah. Not the very last weekend in June, to be clear, because you can't take official visits on, June 25th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Like, it doesn't necessarily, that's not legal technically. But with that being said, just to be clear. But with that being said, that's what makes it so intriguing, because, and I don't know if we can peel back the curtain too much, but when you look down the line, I would assume they take one just based on kind of how the numbers work out. But if Jedd really wants to swing for the fences and take two, that just is the reason why it's intriguing is if Landen now has to build that relationship with Zammit, they are two East Coaster guys, Landen being from Ohio, Zammit being from New Jersey. So they could have that type of connection, but it's one of those I don't want to say it would seem forced, but I just wonder how much of a mutual connection does he have with some of the other guys that are already highly considering Washington? Because like I said in the beginning, what's the ripple effect? How does this vision come together? The quarterback is the Cadillac. It is the guy you build everything around, especially for Jedd Fisch, because he's a quarterback guy, offensive guy. You build the offense around the quarterback. You build the recruiting class around, theoretically, your quarterback. Obviously, you can have high valued guys at other positions, but really, especially with offensive coaches, you look at what quarterback did he get that year? We look back at Chris Peterson's classes. You can see for every Jake Browning, there's a few other guys, and I don't want anybody to catch strays because I like all those guys. We got to cover all those guys, so I don't want to throw any strays on that road. Because again, you could go down and say, "Oh man, that was a weird scholarship or wasted scholarship," and some people's opinions where I don't have that opinion. But you just look back and think, if you take one, what's the effect? If you can pull off two, Jedd gets his own, I'm not saying statue, but that's a big selling point.
So I agree with you. And I got a couple guys I want to mention just in terms of names I'm really interested in, where I want to start with the tight ends. Just, go with you point by point before we get out of here. Where with the tight ends, you've got 4 coming on official visits right now. Said that the other day. One guy who's going to be on campus, today as we record this on Saturday, is Kai Wesley, the 3-star tight end from Orem High School in Utah, who I'm really interested in. There's Kakua Omua from IMG Academy, who I really like. I think he's a really nice athlete. Camden Jensen from Colorado is an intriguing name to watch as well, along with Landen. So you've got a whole lot of opportunities for Jordan Paopao to find, whichever ones he identifies as, hey, this is the guy I really want to prioritize among this group, or which two. So that's just an interesting thing to watch there. And then when you talk about, the potential of taking 2 quarterbacks, what is Jedd's favorite word when it comes to everything he's talked about so far this spring?
Competition.
Exactly that, where, is it something that every high school quarterback wants to sign up for, where it's, hey, I want to go there and I want to be the guy? Certainly not, but it's something to keep an eye on, where, when people are going to look at this and say, oh, well, he was clearly a backup plan for Brady Smigiel. The way this has played out is very clear, especially, everything we discussed in terms of Derek's fit in the offense makes it clear that that's not necessarily true. It feels like more of a 1A, 1B sort of thing than it was anything else. So that's just one way to keep that in mind. And then, you just think about what this could be in terms of, hey, yeah, one guy is graduating, maybe somebody else ends up hitting the transfer portal, and you want to take 2 quarterbacks again. It's more than possible to find a way to make that work. But Lars, we got to get out of here for the day. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all the videos tuning in. We really do appreciate your support. We got so much more fun stuff coming for you throughout the offseason, throughout spring practice. And you got to make sure that you're up to date with all those bonus episodes that we drop just like this one. Do all that. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. We're there. We're everywhere. We're updating this channel for new content every single day. So make sure you click that like button, click that little bell so you never miss when we post a new video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them right down below in the comment section. And if you're audio only, please leave us 5-star reviews. It does help us out a lot. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you on Monday.